Hello, what's up, and welcome back to a new recording on Python. Today, let's cover something on numeric types, and we're going to focus on a floating point. Float. Basically, a floating point is basically float. Basically, a floating point is the okay. Let's start with a floating point number. Floating point number. A floating point number is a real number. Basically, a number like 3.14, a number like 3.14142, 3.3, 1.2. Basically, floating point number is a real number, just like this. Any number with point something, that's a number. Negative 666.6, that's a 0.00, that's a floating point number. The term floating point refers to the decimal appearing anywhere in the number. You see this? Basically, that's a floating point. Thus, the float being a data type for a floating point number. I hope that makes sense. A data type for such a floating point number is a float. We can do an example. We'll cover this later. Let's do an example. An example of 3.14. Okay, let me use, for now I'll use 0.01. Now, when I run this file, I should be able to, let's leave the site first. When I run this, using the type, I should be able to know what data type A is. So it should give us a float, since we've just said the data type for a floating point number is a float. So when we run this, we should get a float. Let's run this file, Python 1.py. Our file name is 1.py, so let's run it. So we're getting a data type of float. That's what a data type of a floating point number is. We're going to do an example, the one we just saw here. We're going to do an example by doing we're going to do an example one by tackling a question, which we told to write a program that reads a floating point from a user, calculates the time to drive and fly the distance. Now, I have written this. I just wrote this before I started recording. So we're going to say miles is the variable name you're going to use to get an input from a user. We're telling the user to enter the distance in miles. And if the plane is going 500 miles per hour, so we're going to assign to a variable name hours to fly. Then if the plane goes 60 miles per hour to drive, we're going to say hours to drive, we're going to assign it to 60.0. Now we want to take in what the user inputs and see, and now calculate the hours taken and hours to drive. Basically, our question here: calculate the time to drive and the time to fly. Right? Time to drive and fly the distance. So time to fly and time to drive the distance. So basically, we're going to get that by dividing the miles the user input by 500, which the plane goes in an hour, and the 60 which the plane drives in an hour. So we're going to print. Basically, we're going to print. We're going to print miles. What the user has inputted. Let me say miles to check. This, yeah. we're going to print as well the hours it will take by saying hours to fly. What we just have there, just have it there. You say hours to fly. Hours to fly. And as well print hours to drive. Basically, I'm just writing what is supposed to be see in a terminal. So basically, now this program will ask the user for an input, the miles. It will take in the miles using this variable name. It will store the input from my user. Then to use the miles to divide by 500, which we say the plane flies 500 miles per hour, and it will use this to divide by 60, which we say the plane drives the plane flies for 60 miles. Okay, the train drives for. Okay, if you drive, you will drive 60 miles per hour, and if you fly 500 miles per hour. Now let's try and run the file to see what we get. So we can first comment out what we had initially, then we try and run a file. So we're being told to enter the distance in miles. So if we say we want to see how long it will take us to fly for 450 miles and the drive for the same. So basically what this tells us is it will take us 450 miles, what we just entered, this one here. It will take 0.9 hours to fly, and it will take 7.5 hours to drive. Basically, we're dividing that by 500 and by 60. Hope that's clear, and we've shown the floating point. Now you see this, it takes in a float. That's why we have 450.0, right? Then we see 0.9 being a float, and then 7.5 being a float. I hope that's clear. That's clear for our example one. You can try this with you can try this on your computer. You can try it being a different question. I hope that's clear. We can in our next lesson we can cover arithmetic expression, but there are more questions and answers to cover on this. I can do more samples. I can do more examples on the floating point, and I'll be able to share it with you. Let's see. Meet in the next one.